Now, when Alex Lewis thought he had a simple cold, little did he know that he would actually develop a flesh-eating bug that would leave him in a coma with only a 3% chance of survival.
After losing both his legs, an arm and part of his face, Alex not only survived, but says he couldn't be happier. And he's here now. It's a remarkable story, and it's lovely to meet you.
So lovely
Thank you for coming in today. So you're 34, and this is November last year, and you've been flu-y for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I felt rough for about 2 weeks. Very low. I used to get hot and cold sweats. General flu symptoms, and what I thought, and that's why I didn't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
I thought he'd just send me back and say, look, go to bed for 3 days and, you know, sleep it off.
Well, you're generally a healthy guy.
Exactly, yeah.
And so that night, this is November the 17th, you go to bed feeling ill.
Yeah.
And wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I went to the loo and I could see that I had blood in my urine, and that's when we thought this is quite serious.
Alarm bells ring.
And as it turns out, that was the initial stage of my kidneys shutting down. But we weren't to know that until 2 or 3 days after that.
Yeah.
So the following day, I woke up, still felt ill, got in the shower, got dressed, and then I went downstairs and I could see my skin starting to change colour to like purple patches and then grey, and then luckily
that quick?
It was immediate, yeah. And then thankfully my mother called the ambulance, and I was off to A&E.
Taken off to hospital, and originally they thought it was Weil's disease, which is what you can contract from rats, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
the symptoms are quite similar. But then it was one doctor in Winchester Hospital that realised that it was strep A. He'd seen one case before, and then he knew how to treat it. And thankfully, if it wasn't for him, then the outcome would have been a lot worse.
But strep A, what you talk about, that a lot of people, there's obviously varying degrees of it, and it's normally something that your body would just flush through your system.
Exactly, yeah. We all carry the strep A. And like you say, usually it would simulate in a cold or a tickly cough. And unfortunately, mine came out as the worst case.
So that's when this usually relatively harmless virus penetrates your defences.
Yes, yes. And then it caused all my organs to start to shut down. So I had multiple organ failure. And then
Septicemia?
Septicemia kicked in, yeah. Toxic shock syndrome, quite a lot.
And so this was a very rapid decline. Even from the moment the paramedics arrived, you knew that they were working fast.
Well, I heard them say that they had to shave 5 minutes off the journey from where I was living in Lockerbie, just outside Romsey at the time, to get to Winchester, because they knew that my deterioration was so quick that I had to get to a hospital.
So you were in a coma. How much, you drifting out, how much were you aware of what was happening to you and how bad it was?
I think I was aware of quite a lot, more than I think all the doctors initially thought. So I can recall going to Winchester, I can recall the conversation about Weil's disease with the doctors, and then I can recall the doctor saying, no, it's strep A, I've seen it before. And then after that is quite a blur, because I was in and out of consciousness, and then obviously onto life support after that.
And when you came out of the coma, you said looking down at your body as the disease was taking hold, you would look down and it was like watching your organs die in front of you, your limbs die.
Yeah, you could see the disease start to crawl out your body, so you could see patches of your skin turn a real sort of dark brown. All my legs, I could see it crawling up from my toes upwards. Because initially the doctors thought that they could save, I wouldn't have to lose all my legs, I would lose a partial amount in my toes. But the disease was so rapid that within a week and a half it was a case of my legs coming off above the knee.
How did that news affect you? Because when you are told, you're lying in bed, you know, you eventually start with flu-like symptoms, and virtually before you know it, you're told that you are going to lose 3 of your limbs.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to put it into words, but I think I processed it quite clinically in the fact that if I wasn't going to lose my limbs, I would die. So the option was either you lose them and survive, or keep them and you don't survive. So I think with that in my mind, I was quite...
What option do you have?
It was quite categorical that they had to come off.
What is incredible is that you then underwent this pioneering surgery on your hand.
Yeah.
Because actually you could have lost all 4 of your limbs.
Yes.
And this surgery, I mean, the hours that you spent having this done, you have your hand there.
Yeah.
And it's starting to show signs that the nerves are regrowing. In your thumb, you can feel slight things.
Yeah, the nerve growth is just about here now. So we hope within the next couple of weeks I'll be able to see my thumb twitch slightly. And then from there on, it's a huge amount of physio to try and get the fingers to work as well.
You describe what they did as off the scale.
It is, yeah. I mean, basically from just under my shoulder joint all the way down to my wrist, they stripped all my tissue, all my muscle and all my nerves out, back to a skeleton. And then they took a 14-inch flap from my shoulder that runs down. So I've got a 14-inch scar running down my left back, which they then implanted along the underside of my arm with the muscle and the nerve from the back. And then they literally just sewed me back together.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a roadmap if you see it, but it's quite incredible how they did it.
Obviously, the other effect is your face, your lower face, and that you say was difficult with your son.
It was, yeah. Initially, it looked like I had, as he described it, I had chocolate all around my mouth. So I was mucky, a mucky daddy. But sadly, it took my nose, it took all my lips, and obviously all the graft and all the scars that you see was a skin graft. It got to my ears. Luckily, I kept my ears. It basically attacks every extremity, so you know it'll start with your fingers and your toes, and it'll then slowly work its way in.
And he's 3.5 now, so quite tough for a little boy to understand. I think his reaction to you to begin with, he was a little bit unsure, sort of didn't recognise you a little bit.
No, exactly. I mean, what he saw in the hospital bed was Daddy missing his left arm, and obviously the chocolate that he thought was around my mouth. So it's very hard to contemplate, looking at all the machinery that and all the beeping noises, and it was an awful lot for a then 2 and 3/4-year-old to understand and take it in.